Hello and welcome to Dawn of War Weekly, powered by PC Gamer. My name is Simon Miller and today I'm here to talk to you about war. Endless war in the 41st millennium. Yes, Sega and Relic Entertainment are back this April with Dawn of War 3, a game that promises to merge the huge armies of Dawn of War 1 with the heroes of Dawn of War 2 to create the biggest, craziest battles you've ever seen on a PC screen. In this series, we're going to dig deep into the game, we're going to explore the factions, we're going to have some battles in the studio, we're going to obliterate a PC with a giant real-life power fist. It's going to be great. But before all that, I need to know more about what's new in Dawn of War 3. I need help. I need a strategy expert that knows his grav tanks from his killer cans. And that man is Chris Thurston.
Hello, Simon. How are you?
I'm ready to talk about war in space, Chris. What's the deal with Dawn of War 3?
This is the latest entry in a series that began in 2004 with Dawn of War 1, which we're looking at now. At the time, Dawn of War was the most spectacular take on Games Workshop's Warhammer 40,000 universe on PC. It was all about big armies of Space Marines, Orcs and Eldar clashing on large open battlefields. Then in 2009, Dawn of War 2 came along and focused on the heroes of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. You controlled a small number of powerful squads with lots of abilities and commanded them like a special forces unit. It was a more focused take on the fantasy. Dawn of War 3, to put it simply, is both. You're building bases, you have huge armies shooting each other, melting each other with flamethrowers, cutting each other up with power swords. You get to command iconic units from the 40k fiction like Space Marine tactical squads and floating Eldar grav tanks.
How big can these armies get?
You could have 100 of these guys fighting on screen at the same time.
That's a lot of war.
And on top of that, you have hero units like Gabriel Angelos, who's been a big part of the series since the beginning.
And they play like Dawn of War 2 heroes?
Exactly. They have a lot of unique attacks that you can trigger when you need an advantage. When you start a game, you pick 3 heroes from your army's roster. You can choose highly mobile heroes like the Space Marine Deathwatch, who are great in the early game, or gamble to bring in something massive towards the end of a match like the Imperial Knight. Your picks change a lot about how your army plays.
This awesome giant robot is the Imperial Knight?
Yes.
Can I have 3 of those?
No. But even if you could take 3, you wouldn't want to. The Knights unlock quite late in the battle, so you'd have no heroes for most of the game. A lot of your army's power lies in the ways different heroes can work together with the other line units to combo enemies. A Psyker might pin a unit while your Imperial Knight nukes them with rockets.
I'm not gonna lie, Chris. This is carnage. There's an electric whirlwind. Why is there an electric whirlwind?
That is the Eldar super ability. As well as armies and heroes, every faction has a huge apocalyptic attack that can wipe out dozens of enemies. The Eldar call in this Eldritch Storm, which slows enemies and kills them. The Space Marines have a space laser. The Orcs call down meteors.
Okay, back up. Let's talk more about the factions. There are 3 this time round.
That's right. Space Marines, Orcs, and Eldar. They all play very differently. They have their own units and unique abilities. The factions are more varied in Dawn of War 3 than they have been in any other Dawn of War game, and in the single-player campaign you actually play as all 3. You rotate from mission to mission, playing from the perspective of the Space Marine commander Gabriel Angelos, the Eldar Farseer Maka, and the Orc warboss Gorguts.
Why are they fighting?
Well, they hate each other anyway because it's Warhammer 40,000, but they're also after the Spear of Cain, an ancient Eldar artifact that has reappeared. The Space Marines don't want anyone else to have it, the Eldar want it because it's theirs, and the Orcs want it because it's shiny.
I can respect that.
There is some nice continuity for fans of Dawn of War 1 and Dawn of War 2. Maka, the Eldar Farseer, was in the first game. She looked very different back then. Gorguts, the Orc warlord, has been building up his strength and gathering a new army together. Now he's back with a huge mechanical claw arm. These guys have been fighting each other for a generation.
And that carries through to multiplayer.
That's right. There's one mode at launch called Power Core. You win by taking down the enemy's shield generator, turret, and Power Core in turn. You can play that in 1v1, 2v2, or 3v3.
So in 3v3, you're going to have 6 armies on the battlefield?
Yes, and Relic believe that's probably the best way to play. That's where you're going to get the biggest battles. The Orcs, Eldar, and Space Marines can all be on the same side, their super units can team up together, they can coordinate and fire off their super attacks at the same time, so you have space lasers, meteors, and electric whirlwinds tearing up whole armies, and super units coming in at the same time firing off all of their attacks.
That's nuts!
The single player is about learning the armies and crushing the AI with each faction's biggest units. Multiplayer is where Dawn of War 3 gets serious. It's designed to be the most competitive RTS of the series.
Am I going to have to get my actions per minute up?
It's less about being fast with a mouse and more about balancing a dozen things in your head at the same time. Ultimately, you have to destroy your opponent's core, but you can build bases anywhere on the map. You need to capture resource points to get requisition and power so you can buy units. You need to upgrade your resource points and build listening posts to defend them.
And actually fight a war.
Yeah, and manage your units and hero special abilities in combat. It's really challenging and a serious change of pace from the single player. Match after match, your heroes level up and unlock more passive abilities called doctrines, giving you more ways to define what your army is good at. You can also install 3 doctrines that improve aspects of your army.
So 2 Space Marine armies can play differently.
Yes, one might be geared towards making their Dreadnought Walkers amazing. Another build might buff Space Marine drop pods, which let you drop units on enemies from orbit. When you drop into a lobby and see your opponent, you can see that they're running Gabriel Angelos with a particular buff, or that they're taking an Imperial Knight, and you can start thinking about counters, or synergies if you're on the same team.
The mind games begin.
Once the battle starts, you can start building your army in a certain way to deal with heroes as well. If you build lots of anti-vehicle infantry, you can take down an Imperial Knight surprisingly quickly. You're going to have to scout your opponent aggressively and keep track of what they're building.
So you've got 3 heroes to pick, hero buffs, doctrines, and unit choice. Are there any other ways you can customize your army?
Well, you can paint them all pink.
Sold.
The Army Painter has always been a part of the series. It's a nod to the tabletop game where, of course, you can paint your units any color you want. In Dawn of War 3, you can select famous faction color schemes, so you can have Dark Angel Space Marines or choose your own colors. There are mastery skins as well to make your hero units look even better.
Well, I'm excited, Chris. I'm going to take an Imperial Knight, paint it pink, and then crush the enemies of man. And that's all we've got time for this week, but make sure to tune in next week to Dawn of War Weekly, where I'll be taking a closer look at the factions and the biggest war machines the series has ever seen. So it's goodbye from us, but there's still time for our Warhammer Weekly Fact, courtesy of RTS hero Sean Day 9 Plot. Take it away, Sean.
Thanks, Simon. Yes, it's Day 9 here with your Warhammer 40,000 Fact of the Week. Did you know that Space Marines sleep with 1/2 of their brains at a time, so they never need to take a break from killing the enemies of the Emperor? No sleep, no respite, only war. That's all for now. Look out for another episode of Dawn of War Weekly next week. Until then, farewell.